Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the inauguration of the Goodman Fellows Program, an initiative led by the Morris and Rosalind Goodman Family Foundation from Canada. This initiative aims to increase university access for Israelis of Ethiopian descent, featuring Breaking Boundaries Through Education, a conversation on Tel Aviv University's Israeli-Ethiopian community. I would like to open this important event by inviting Professor Ariel Porat, President of Tel Aviv University, to the stage.
Thank you. We have a formal speech, but before this formal speech, I want to tell you a kind of a personal story. So more than 30 years ago, after I joined the Faculty of Law as a member, they sent me, so to speak, to be a member in a committee, a university committee, that was responsible for social involvement, something like that. And after a few weeks that we discussed all kinds of issues, someone raised a very important point, which is that in the most competitive departments of the university, there are almost no Ethiopian students. Indeed, at the Faculty of Law at that time, there was no even one, and not just the moment that when we have the discussion, but a long time before. So just no Ethiopian students. And then, so we tried to check how it happened, because there were so many potential candidates. And the answer we got was that, unfortunately, none of the potential students didn't pass the minimal threshold of the psychometrical exams, and that was the reason why nobody was admitted. So that was a kind of a strange answer. And, and then I said, I was then a very kind of a young faculty, even without tenure. But I said, you see, if you find someone that is really seems to be with a high potential, do my best to find a way that she would be admitted to the law school. After a month or so, there was such a candidate. She didn't meet the psychometrical threshold. But they told me that she's the best among like maybe 5,000 people at her age. And then I came back to the Faculty of Law, to the Committee of Admittance of Students, and I said, you see, I have a candidate, she doesn't meet the psychometrical threshold, but she's really top in her, like, the relevant group. Now we should decide, either we think that Ethiopians are not good enough, and if that's the case, probably we are racist, or alternatively, we should think that maybe the psychometrical exam has some cultural problems, that they just are not good for Ethiopian or students from the Ethiopian community, or maybe also for other communities. Well, that of course was a rhetoric question, because we don't want to be racist, or at least not to admit that we are racist. And the faculty, the committee was flexible enough, and we admitted that student, even though she was far away just by psychometrical exam. She was a very good student. And actually, it makes a point that, actually 2 points. One is that we should be very careful with exams which are kind of a general exams and are not tailored, thank you, are not tailored to specific communities that might have different cultural background. And the second thing is that it's a very interesting and important criterion to take students by comparing them to people in similar conditions. And that actually gave me an inspiration years later when I became the dean of the law school to initiate what we call the admittance program for distinguished students from the periphery. And that program is based on the same idea, that it's a better, sometimes it's much more predictive of success to see how a specific person succeeded within the group with similar conditions, then comparing him or her to the general population, and that actually became a very successful program at the university. Later, it has been expanded to the entire university, and every year we admit close to 100 students in all faculties, which the admittance is not based on the absolute score, but instead of their relative scores comparing to their peers. So everything started from that specific case when I was really very young professor, just entered the faculty of law with specific Ethiopian students that became a successful lawyer. Okay, this is the personal story, and now I want to go into so Pnina, it's great to see you here. Thank you for attending, and Yafa, and of course Jonathan, and the entire group from Canada and from other places. It's wonderful to have you here. The Goodman family, of course. So I'm delighted to greet you all, and especially Jonathan, a new Tau honorary doctor, as you know, right? Just from yesterday. We are very excited about the Goodman Fellows Project, a major initiative for increasing the proportion of Ethiopian origin students graduating from Tel Aviv University. It will do so by providing students with financial aid to reduce their cost of living, tutoring to support them academically, mentoring to help prepare for the employment market, social activities to deepen their sense of belonging on campus, and other activities to be determined by a senior committee here in consultation with you, Jonathan. This project both reflects and advances the university's deep commitment to expanding university access to underrepresented and marginalized groups. It also reflects the unflagging efforts of Jonathan over many years to raise awareness of the plight of Jewish Ethiopian immigrants to Israel and to enhance their opportunities throughout Israeli society. Prior to establishing the Goodman Fellows Project, Jonathan created the Walk in Their Shoes campaign to provide scholarships for Ethiopian Israeli students, which to date has brought in over $2 million from donors around the world. Let me say now a few words about you, Jonathan, more broadly. So Jonathan is an entrepreneur and philanthropist. He co-founded and served as president and CEO of the publicly traded Paladin Labs Inc. Corporation, a pharmaceutical company acquired in 2014 by Endo International Incorporation. He also founded Knight Therapeutic Incorporation, a specialty pharmaceutical company that he leads as executive chair. Here are some of his charitable endeavors. Jonathan was the chair of the Jewish Appeal Montreal annual campaign that raised $45 million. Maybe we should, should bring you working with us on a regular basis. He fielded the largest team in the Quebec ride to conquer cancer for 7 consecutive years, raising $10 million for cancer research. He helped raise $80 million toward the creation of a new Jewish high school in Montreal, and he chaired the JNF Climate Solution Prize campaign, which raised $6 million. I try to take the numbers in my mind and to see whether you reach the $125 million that we raised recently from the Gray. So you are close. You are kind of a close competition. Jonathan received numerous awards and honors for his business and philanthropist activities, among them the Globe and Mail's Top 40 Under 40 Award, the Sam Steinberg Award for Entrepreneurial Excellence, and Quebec Entrepreneur of the Year in the Life Science by the National Post and Ernst & Young. Among a broad range of civic roles, he serves as a campaign chair of the Climate Solutions Prize. To conclude, I would like to extend special thanks to Vice President Neta Ziv, to Professor Dorit Neumann, our Dean of Student Success, and to Maxine Finkelstein, President of the Morris and Rosalind Goodman Family Foundation, for their tireless work to turn the Goodman vision into an operative mission. Jonathan, we are grateful that your passion and our mission have found mutual ground, and that we have you and your family as partners in a project that is of paramount academic, social, and national importance. Thank you, and I wish upon us all great success with this so important project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Porat. I would now like to invite Mr. Gideon Belete to provide opening remarks. Gideon is a graduate of Tel Aviv University's Laui International School, where he earned a master's in security and diplomacy. Originally from Toronto, Canada, Gideon was born to Ethiopian Jewish parents and survivors of Operation Moses. Passionate about his family's history, Gideon became a fellow at the Erwin Kotler Institute for Democracy, Human Rights, and Justice during his time here at Tel Aviv University. There, he explored concepts of democracy, human rights, and discrimination while training in public speaking and social justice advocacy. Before making Aliyah, Gideon worked as a government relations consultant, in addition to working as an aide to a member of parliament. Gideon holds a BA in Political Studies and History from Queen's University, where he specialized in politics of the Middle East and comparative politics. Gideon currently works as an editor at Haaretz newspaper covering Israel-Gaza war. Gideon, the podium is yours.
Thank you for the very kind introduction. And good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. I wanted to give a special thank you to the whole CFTAU team, all the board members here with us today, and all the event organizers who made today's event possible. I also want to acknowledge and thank our special guests, including today's panel moderator, who I have the special opportunity to introduce. And of course, I want to thank all of you who have come to take part in what is no doubt a very important conversation. Before I introduce our special guest, I'd like to take a moment to share a bit about myself and my journey at Tel Aviv University. My name is Gideon Belete, and as our host mentioned, I'm a proud graduate of TAU's Laui International School's Master of Security and Diplomacy. In 2022, I decided to pursue my lifelong dream of studying international affairs and political studies here in Israel, specifically in Tel Aviv. After being accepted to TAU's one-year master's program of security and diplomacy, I gathered some of my close friends in my hometown of Toronto to share this exciting life update. When I told them that I would be studying security and diplomacy in Israel, one friend turned to me and half-jokingly said, "Gideon, you're going to study security and diplomacy in the least secure and least diplomatic country in the world?" The decision, however, was deeply meaningful. Studying at Tel Aviv University represented the powerful intersection of two values I hold so dear: the pursuit of higher education and a deep connection to the State of Israel. From the moment my academic year began, I was immersed in campus life, learning from leading Israeli scholars, honing both new and familiar skills, and forming bonds with peers from around the world. But as I navigated the lecture halls, auditoriums, and campus cafes, one thing quickly stood out: the absence of Ethiopian Israeli students. In many of the spaces I entered, I rarely saw others who looked like me. It did not go unnoticed, not by me, and surely not by those who understand what representation in education means. The absence, however, was more than just a number or a statistic to me. It was a feeling, a silence, a persistent sense of isolation, which prompted the question that echoed in my mind: where is my community? With that question came frustration. As a proud Ethiopian Jew living in Israel, I know without a shadow of a doubt the immense skill, talent, intellect, and untapped potential that lives within my community. We carry stories of courage, of parents who crossed deserts to reach the Holy Land, of families who held on to their Jewish identity through centuries of exile and persecution. Our roots are deep and our strength is real. So why then are our faces so often missing at TAU, a place that shapes Israel's future? And what's being done about this? That very question lies at the heart of today's panel discussion. We'll explore the barriers that many Ethiopian Jews face in accessing higher education, and just as importantly, we'll highlight the inspiring work being done to remove those barriers and build a more equitable and inclusive campus life. The answers are complex, built on years of social, economic, and educational inequality. But complexity is not an excuse, it's a call to action. When young Ethiopian Israeli children see people who look like them in universities, in government, in boardrooms, and beyond, it plants a seed, a belief that they too belong, that they too can lead. But representation is not just symbolic. It's often said that Israel's greatest resource is its people. Israeli grit, ingenuity, creativity, and problem-solving lie at the heart of the state's existence, survival, and success. But when entire communities are left on the margins, we limit our collective potential. But important steps are already being done to break these barriers. Scholarships, financial assistance, and mentorship programs are leading to improvements, but much work remains. One of the individuals leading that work is today's panel moderator, Yafa Tegenya. Yafa Tegenya is a Montreal-based human rights advocate and a lawyer dedicated to advancing the Ethiopian Jewish community's representation in education. Yafa Tegenya is actively involved in several community organizations which focus on human rights, Jewish advocacy, and cultural preservation. She serves as a Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs ambassador, representing the Montreal Jewish community. Additionally, she's an advisory board member of CJPAC, Canadian Jewish Political Affairs Committee, contributing to political advocacy and community engagement. As the first Ethiopian Jewish member of Tel Aviv University's Board of Governors, she has been involved in several campaigns, including the establishment of the Baruch Tegenya Zichrono Levracha Fund for Ethiopian Israeli students, aiming to foster a new generation of leaders. She also serves as chair of TAU's Equity and Diversity Committee, where she's deeply engaged in advancing meaningful change on campus. So it is with deep admiration and gratitude that I now invite our panel moderator and someone I consider a true trailblazer and my coolest cousin, Yafa Tegenya.
Thank you, Gideon. It's really amazing to be here with the younger generation, seeing people that have been inspired by myself, my father, and things coming full circle in our lives. With that, I'm going to keep the introduction short. Today, our panelists here are Jonathan Goodman, as we've explained, a governor and recent recipient of an honorary doctorate at Tau for his inspiring and impactful work in creating the Goodman Fellowship for Students of Ethiopian Descent. Professor Netta Ziv, Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Community here at Tel Aviv University. Yael Dinko, a fourth-year acting student and scholarship recipient. And Pnina Tamnoshata, my cousin, a lawyer, journalist, politician. It runs in the family. Pnina was the first Ethiopian-born woman to enter the Knesset. She also became the first Ethiopian-born minister after being appointed as Minister of Immigration and Absorption in 2020. I welcome you all to join the panel. Thank you all for being here. And if you come take your seats. Before we begin our panel discussion, I just ask that you all turn your attention to a short video, just be a few
I want to thank you for welcoming us so warmly to your community. But more importantly, I want to thank you for maintaining our people's tradition under adverse conditions for the last 2,500 years.
So we are all on the same boat together, rowing in the same direction, trying to better the lives of Israelis of Ethiopian descent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I just want to say I'm very honored to be here and part of this panel on this very important subject, one that has tremendous impact for the university and Israeli society as well. I met Jonathan almost at the same time as I started my scholarship, and I was introduced to also Maxine, who runs the foundation. And when I heard about your goal of raising $10 million in scholarships to close the economic gaps that exist between this community and society, I was really inspired and impressed. And you inspired me and my husband to increase our donation. And even though I'm very involved in this community already, you got us to do even more. And I've been honored to work in partnership with you and your amazing family. And I'm very proud for you to see your vision being realized today. And with that, just get to the first question. So let's begin at the inception of the Goodman Fellowship Initiative, because I really love this story. So maybe you could share with us how you became involved in the issue of access to education for students of Ethiopian descent, what inspired you to undertake this tremendous initiative, and why this issue is of such importance to you and your family foundation.
Thank you. So I got involved in supporting Israelis of Ethiopian descent because I went to a friend's fundraising event in his basement. And the keynote speaker was Rabbi Sharon Shalom, who is an Israeli of Ethiopian descent rabbi. And he spoke very candidly, very frankly, about what it's like to be black in Israel. And he started by saying that you are 10 times more likely to get shot by a policeman if you're black than white. And that for the same job and the same education, a black will earn about 25% less. For the same crime, a black will receive about 40% longer jail time than a white in Israel. And if I close my eyes, I thought I was talking about Texas, not our beloved state of Israel. And I live a couple blocks away from Milan Gortz's house, and as I was walking home, I said, I gotta fix this problem. And thankfully, it's a problem that can be fixed because there are 170,000 Israelis of Ethiopian descent in Israel. It's a problem that can be fixed. And our people's solution to adversity has always been education. And I said, and I just made up a number. I said, I'm going to raise $10 million for Israelis of Ethiopian descent to attend Israel's two best universities, Tel Aviv University and Hebrew University. And I went out and started calling my friends and started explaining the problem. And some of my friends still talk to me. Gideon Pollock's still here. And it resonates. Education makes a difference one life at a time.
Absolutely, and that's why I felt always that education was the most important. I know this community it gives back tenfold, and that we're going to see change and ripple effect very quickly with your efforts. From my experience, sharing the story of Ethiopian Jews is tremendously powerful. What are some of the reactions that you've received when speaking in community about your initiative, and are there any insights you've gained on this journey that you'd like to share with us?
Well, there were two moments that were incredibly impactful. One was, it was filmed. I led a trip to Ethiopia to see firsthand what it's like, and it was very easy to recruit friends, family, and community members. And I think, and I don't know if you know this, President, but when I get the president of Hebrew University and I get a date, we're both going to Ethiopia together, and it's something to be seen. It is so impactful to see what you saw, to see 500 Jews singing the Shema, and to know that our tradition has been held there for 2,500 years. Like it is a beautiful, impactful thing to see. And then the second most impactful event came just a couple of days ago when I was surrounded by 30 Tel Aviv University students of Ethiopian descent who were just brilliant.
Amazing.
And it's exactly why we're here. One life at a time, one degree at a time.
Absolutely. As a philanthropist, I chose to create a scholarship because I wanted to create a leadership cohort specifically in Tel Aviv. What is your measure of success?
My measure of success is I want to see a black middle class in Israel. I want to see Israeli-Ethiopian descent leaving Israel's periphery and living in Tel Aviv and living in Jerusalem. It is very hard to be racist if your grandchildren are black. We need change.
Absolutely.
And education is the way to make it happen.
So now that you've succeeded in your fundraising goal, what remains on the horizon, and what is the future of this project, and how can the BOG community support your efforts?
So there's a great philanthropist in Montreal who has a line that I plagiarize. I'm not a student, so I can plagiarize. Vision without financing is a hallucination. And so I'm going to keep raising money because every student costs tens of thousands of dollars to support, and each student is eventually a community.
And I'm going to warn you, Jonathan, because everybody I know who is involved in this issue, from within the community, outside the community, Israelis, they never leave. They're always with us. They always stand with us because the reward is tremendous, and you're going to find you will keep raising money because you're going to keep meeting people that are going to inspire you in so many ways and that are going to be in the arts and projects and all kinds of things. So thank you for being an ally, and I wish you the best of luck in your continued efforts because this will be for life. Next is Netta Ziv. Netta Ziv is the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Community here at the university. I've sat with you as chair of this committee over the past few years. You've opened my eyes to what diversity and equity means here in Israel and at Tel Aviv University, which is a bit different than the way we understand it in North America. So could you please share with the governors the importance of the work that you do and the impact it has in shaping both Israeli society and the Tau community?
Okay, thank you, Yafa. Thank you, Jonathan, and Jonathan's family, and Maxine. It's a pleasure to be here. So I think it's important to restate the starting point. And the starting point for all this community, equity, diversity is a responsibility that we have and a mission. So we all talk about research and teaching, which is the basics. But Tel Aviv is the largest university, elite university in a world city like Tel Aviv. And we must ask ourselves these questions. And they are, one, who gets here and who doesn't get here? And this immediately relates to what Professor Porat started with. You know, he just picked up his head and he said, wow, like I don't see anybody. You know, this is the first thing we have to do, to ask ourselves who gets here and who doesn't get here. And the numbers tell us that if you're on the lower socioeconomic echelon in Israel, it's hard to get into Tel Aviv University. But if you're on the top 20%, you're represented here more than any other university. And we have to ask ourselves why. Why is this happening? What are the barriers? And what can we do about it? Just like Gideon said, what can we do about it? So these are the things that we are working on, and we're looking at different communities. We're looking at the Ethiopian communities. We're looking at periphery. We're looking at Arabs and Druze and Bedouins, and we're looking at first-generation students and Haredi students. And we try very carefully to understand what can we do to make them come to Tel Aviv University and succeed. So this is the first mission.
So What impact are you seeing on the ground? What feedback are you getting from the students that are receiving funds and scholarships from mine and something like mine and Jonathan? What are the most effective things that you've been seeing?
So first of all, Tel Aviv is expensive, right? So there are a lot of barriers to come and live here and study here. But it's not just the money. It's the ability to even think of Tel Aviv University as an option for me. And when we surveyed the students, Maxine made us do this survey, and we made this survey, and it's really great because we understand that for many young adults, the idea of coming to Tel Aviv University didn't even cross their minds because their friends went somewhere else, if at all. So we decided to go out and outreach to youth centers, to community centers, to high schools, to places where we can tell about the opportunities here. And then we try to check our admittance procedures and where are the barriers. And when they get in, the scholarships and the mentorships. So it's a long-lasting journey that, trying to attract the students to come here, and when they are here, to make them feel good, and I hope we are succeeding now more and more. I want to tell you a funny story. Together with the Office of the Dean of Students, we had Rabbi Shalom Sharon talk to us. He is so inspiring. So one of our Arab workers she's Muslim. She was really curious about learning about Ethiopian culture and heritage and tradition. Because if you're a Muslim in Israel, what are the chances that you'll know about this? And she was so fascinated at the end, she says, I want to be in his congregation. So I want to become Ethiopian. So it's this experience of really bringing together communities that never actually meet outside the university.
I think that's, what you're saying is that from the beginning, from the inception, from the high schools, from recruiting, all the way through to support, to inclusion, making students feel comfortable and engaged on campus is really what we're aiming to do with these funds here. When I first decided to give a scholarship, I wasn't so sure about it. Honestly, I said, you know what, let's just give them the money and let them go on their way. But then the students came to me and they said, you know what, if I didn't have Admas, if I didn't have the professional coaching, if I didn't have the student coaching, if I hadn't had the admissions, I would have dropped out. So we're actually, and maybe you can comment, I think we're seeing a lower dropout rate from a lot of these students with these increased services. So it goes hand in hand with the scholarship. We're really trying to create an ecosystem that is going to be successful that's going to enable success on all fronts.
Exactly, and we also want to encourage our students to continue to advanced degrees, okay, master's students, doctorate students, postdoctorate students, again, to create a leadership within the academy of researchers and
have you seen an increase in?
Yes, we've seen an increase. We have doctorate students. I just told you, one in electrical engineering, one is in sociology. She's finishing, and we want more. Okay,
and hopefully increased faculty as well.
And
I think that also should be, hopefully we'll see them all the way through.
We only have one, unfortunately,
I think,
Professor Ambassa.
Thank you very much. So with that, we'll go to Yael. Yael is a fourth-year acting student. I just want to say, as a law graduate, I know that my Ethiopian Jewish identity deeply helped shape my goals and professional pursuits. And I think for many of us, we understand that our identity is key to kind of shapes how we're going to go about in life, because it's something you can't separate in your life. You all know this experience. So can I ask why you specifically chose to study acting here at Tel Aviv University?
Yeah, you can ask. I wanted to study acting because I realized that's what I wanted to do in my life. And the decision to go to TAU specifically was a financial one. All the acting schools in Israel are in Tel Aviv, and Tel Aviv is expensive. And the TAU is the only one that has some sort of funding. So I chose to come here, and yes, also the best one, the best acting program. And I chose to study here, and I'm very happy I did. It's a great program, and I had a lot of help from the Admas Student Excellence program that really helped me through a lot of difficulties that I didn't even see coming. I think that coming here to Tel Aviv was some sort of a cultural shock. I lived in a city that when I walked on the street, all I saw was people who looked like me. I lived in Ramle. And coming here, being away from my family and my community and away from everything I knew up until now was a really challenging experience. Having support and having people to go to and offer me even just an hour of just sitting together and talking together about my experiences and noticing that that's what's happening. Noticing that I'm feeling weird and strange because I'm in a city where no one looks at me the way that I see myself. Also, like, it's very visceral in the sense that sometimes people would address me in English because they just assumed that I'm not Israeli.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, kol hakavod lach, that you, I know how hard it is, I know how isolating it can feel, that you still pursue your studies and that you're going forward despite these challenges. You're inspiring and you will inspire others, I have no doubt, because the more people we see, the more others will feel comfortable, and it's really important. Well, so I guess to follow on that, oh, sorry.
While nobody may look like you in Tel Aviv, there are too many look like me, tall, bald Jews.
Tel Aviv might look better. we show up. I think the arts are something that it's a sector that's often overlooked in the Ethiopian Jewish community. It's kind of because sometimes the successes are maybe pushed in one direction, but it's really important because the arts are a medium through which we can, as a community, heal, express ourselves in, cultural continuation. It's really amazing. So where do you see professional opportunities in the arts for other Ethiopian students, and what would you recommend?
For other students who want to study and do art, I think the most important thing is to be active about creating and making space for ourselves. I see it in other students who are not Ethiopians. They just go and they pick a place and they make art and they show themselves without being ashamed, without asking if it's their place. They just go and do it. And I think more Ethiopians should do that. We should be represented by ourselves more openly and more proudly. So I think that's an option.
What types of programs or outreach do you think we should encourage for more students of Ethiopian descent to consider Tel Aviv University for higher education?
I think this is a really important subject. I think high schools are a point in life in Israeli culture that is extremely important because it's right before you go to the army, and a lot of people who are my friends and people, my younger cousins, I see them and I see this thing that they're thinking of going to the army service and making a living through this. Like staying there and being in Keva and making a money and finding education through there and staying there. And I think it's an important thing to do, to go to the army. But it shouldn't be our only option. Like they think about it financially, they think about it socially, they think about all the things, and they think that's the easiest way and the more approachable way for them. Mm-hmm. Like that's the only options they have, and they should be aware that it's not. We should go and tell them that.
I hear this a lot when I speak with my cousins who are serving, especially the men. We actually see, I believe that Ethiopian Jewish community is actually a matriarchal society and that the women are succeeding tremendously and that the men are, also I'm hearing this feedback of let's go to the military route instead of the academic route because tests like the psychometry and all the admissions, again, they have no necessarily role models or leadership within their family to guide them through these academic processes, and instead the military is just already there and presents itself. But and not that that's bad, but we can't lose sight of that goal. I think going forward, we can't lose the boys either. Okay, thank you very much, Yael. Pnina? Very nice to see you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. You graduated from Tau with an MA in Public Policy in 2018. after which you became the first Ethiopian-born woman elected to Knesset. What did that moment mean to you personally and to your community?
First of all, I want to say that it is my pleasure to be here with you, President of the University, Borat. I think that we built some relationship that
She's my favorite member of Knesset.
he didn't say, but I was here 2 months ago. Yes. You didn't say that, but 2 months ago I was here with you and with Case Ephraim Lawi, one of the spiritual leader, and the university gave to the family after 130 years, I think, something like that, a holy book that came to here, to the university from Ethiopia by Faitlovich. So it is amazing to be here. So many stories, so many circles, and I am excited because also to see you, Yafa, and we are mishpacha, and your father was the first one that came to see my family when we came to Israel in '84, and I think that all what happened here, and Jonathan, to see the picture and video from Ethiopia. I lead the Operation Tzur Israel, and I was there. I was there when people exciting to come after years of yearning to Israel, and I was there when people crying because they left behind, and unfortunately the government abandoned them. But I know that we can do that, and we will continue with the Aliyah in the next Knesset, after the next election. And for your question, I think the key word is to dare, and also to understand that it is opportunity. In the second degree, it's easier to see the Tel Aviv University as option. But if I took myself 20 years ago, and I know that Tel Aviv University for me wasn't an option, and in many point of view. The first one is financial, and the second one is the self-confidence and the understanding there that I'm gonna be maybe one of hundreds and thousands of students, and for me it was not an option in that time. But when after I entered to the Knesset and I look for to study a place to study, I think the university is close to my city, Petah Tikva, and it was an option. But I believe you raised some issue about what happened with the Ethiopian student, and excuse me about my English, and how we can help to motivate more and more students to come to the highest university, and especially Tel Aviv. And I think, as Yael said, it is start with a high school. And I believe that if we take some of the sources and put on a project with mentoring in the high school, I believe that it will be easier to bring them here, to here. More of that, to expose them to the universities in a young age. And as I said, I believe that after 40 years, and this year we remark 40 years for Operation Moses, still I see that the main issue that become a barrier and maybe sometime a glass ceiling, but not outside glass ceiling, inside of Ethiopian community, is the self-confidence and to feel that you are part, and to feel that you are equal. And if we want and I think that one of the problematic things that they don't also have the platform and environment to speak about that. Because the Israeli society, as we know, sometimes is aggressive, and with all the things that we deal, it's like we are, you say the amount of our community, 170,000 people, so we bended behind. And we struggle against this, this fact.
Where does your confidence come from?
From the parents, from the family, from the community, from the story of our life, and from the believing that our story is your story, and that the Jewish people, Am Israel, is guarantee each other, and our destiny can be part each other. So because of that, I believe in Israel. And the dilemma, through the years, the dilemma when I was activist and lead a demonstration against racism was, okay, I coming from a very Zionist family. My grandfather was a case, and for generations they keep and contribute their life for the community. So how I can speak loudly about Israel, the darkness side, white side of the Israeli society, the racism. So people ask me, how you do that? And I go to my mother and I told her, I remember that I sued some person that resist to sell to me food. And he said, you are a stealer, and I don't want to sell to Ethiopian. And I told to my mother, if I am lose this trial, I left Israel. I don't want to stay here. And she looked at me with a lot of mercy, and she told me, Pnina, your love to Israel and your love to Am Israel is not depend on a person. It's not matter who is this person. So because I took this sentence that my mother told me, and I know that I believe in Israel, we are still in the middle of the journey, and we are still, and I'm still struggling in the Knesset against the fact, and not you speak about the police violence. Half a year before, we exploded, חשפנו, that the police exposed 25 tikim cases filed in the police, and it is a huge amount. It is a huge amount. It is will crisis the community, and we are struggle against this fact. And in other hand, we continue with the government program, not enough to motivate the young generation to continue to go to the university to get and achieve a higher education, like me, like Yael, like many of the young people that paved the way and become in a great position, but unfortunately, not enough. We see the data, we see the amount of Ethiopian that take a position in the public sector, and we see that they are still in a low level. There is a glass ceiling.
So I think from, to speak to that from my perspective of my story and my family, when my mother first came to Israel, there were maybe 50 Ethiopian Jews. And my parents struggled with racism every single day, constantly, overtly, viscerally. My mother left Israel, she never came back. I'm gonna tell you this, she never came back. And I invited her in 2017 at Beit Tfutzot, there was a tekes in honor of my father, and she freaked out. She freaked out at seeing Ethiopians all over Israeli society, at seeing all this commemoration, all this. She had missed the 30 years. She just came and sometimes we want social change and we want it to happen quickly. And people who are on the forefront like you, they want it to happen quickly, but we have to look at the long vision. I believe in my lifetime, from what I've seen from my parents, that we've made tremendous successes, both as a community internally from our own efforts and by the support of Am Yisrael. And we must look forward, because it will get better, because now we have even greater initiatives and greater awareness, and it's going to get better. And every time I come to Israel, I'm more inspired and more proud by what's happening. So I guess for my last question, and maybe that's perhaps what I just answered, what are some of the key takeaways that you would like these governors here that are interested in this subject, that are engaged, that have networks, that are here to talk, what would you ask of them? What takeaways would you like our governors to leave with here today, these people in this room?
I think that the first decade that we came to Israel, and next week we will remark the day for the Ethiopian Jews that died on the way to Israel, 4,000 Jews that we buried. I was 3 years old in the journey. I came to Israel. At first, I came alone without my mother, and everything was in a lot of balagan, as we call. Only 1 year after the Mossad bring her home with 2 of my sisters. So the first decade we were in Israel, we were in trauma. In the same breathing, we live the trauma and also the dream. The second decade, we look our identity. We start to understand that, okay, we are Israeli, we are Ethiopian, who we are. And the third decade was the first flower of academia, if I connect that to academia. And the 4 decades is the struggle decades. I think the young people like me that grew up here start to raise a voice to say, we are here to advocate ourselves. And the 5th decade must be the decade of the Ethiopian leader in all the fields. And I believe in that. I believe in that because there is a new generation that born here, grew up here, have the tools, the Israeli mentality. It's not mean that I want that they will bend it, what we bring from the home of mother and father. But still, I know that the community need to help, that the community need a help. And many of people in the government ask me, Prina, until when we will continue with affirmative action? And I told them, until the racism will be over. But you know what? We know that it's not going to happen. But until the objective the data, נתונים,
The objective
data will be the same like the other groups in Israel. And as I said, unfortunately, we can see that when we look on and put zoom in welfare, in finance, we see that with the police, we see where the Ethiopian community is still living. We see that in the academia, and we see that in the public sector, and also in the private sector. And until we don't change this reality, it is a problem not only for the community, it is a problem of the Jewish people, and especially the people in Israel. So I believe in the friendship of philanthropy and the Jewish community. And I told to Jonathan, when friends from outside of Israel, from diaspora, not only, but especially from the Jewish community, called me to come and to take a part of panels and to take a part of discussion. I do that immediately because I want you to know that we are not take that for granted. And also Professor Porat, I must say that it is a journey, and if you are join to this journey, you are gonna finish that journey with us. You can't,
You can't
left
leave us. I
behind.
told
You
you.
can't.
You can't.
Yafa will take care of that.
Toda rabba. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
I would just like to build upon what Penina just so beautifully said. Affirmative action, despite who the President of the United States is now, is not a dirty word. We need, as an example, a frustration of mine is there are no Israelis of Ethiopian descent in medical school. The last time I looked, there's one.
We have two, I think. Well, but it's not much, but yeah.
In 5 years. Yeah. But last time I looked in admissions, there wasn't one.
Well, now we have one.
But it works, is the point. But the
Not first time, but we have a special.
No, but the point is that when he looked, there
years.
were none, and in 5 years we have a few, and we'd like to increase, right? So we're on the path.
It's just a frustration because a doctor going to your physician changes hearts and minds. And I think, and it's a ripple effect, and it starts with one doctor at a time.
Absolutely. I think it's something we enjoy as a privilege in Canada. We have a very multicultural society, and it's very normal to see anybody in any position, whether it's a doctor or a teacher, or could be wearing a hijab, or Ethiopian or black. Like that, we take that for granted because I'm not saying we have perfect equality in Canada, but on the global scale, we're pretty good. And I think that it's something that I notice very much when I come to Israel. It's not the case, and that we will continue to strive to work towards. And that's an important goal to go ahead. And with that, I don't know if anybody else has any closing remarks, but we were going to move on to the plaque unveiling, and Professor Netaziv will give her final remarks. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here, and thanks to our panel.
So thank you to Yafa, thank you to our panelists. Now for the unveiling of the plaque. I would like to invite to the stage Professor Netaziv, Vice President for Equity, Diversity, and Community, Mr. Jonathan Goodman. Please join them, Professor Dorit Neumann, Dean of Students, Mr. Sharon Frankel, CEO of CFTAU Montreal. Yes, you can read it. Here, why don't you?
Okay, here we go. This is to witness that on the 22nd day of May, 2025, Tel Aviv University inaugurated the Goodman Fellows Project in the presence of Jonathan Ross Goodman, thereby enhancing accessibility to higher education among young Israelis of Ethiopian descent, providing recipients with the comprehensive support and tools they need to focus on and successfully complete their studies, helping to redress the underrepresentation of Ethiopian Israelis in higher education, and ultimately in leadership positions throughout Israeli society, industry, and academia, and serving as a worthy means of perpetuating the legacy of Morris and Rosalind Goodman among new generations of young Israelis.
So in grateful recognition of Walk in Their Shoes and the Goodman Fellows Project, innovative initiatives to increase university access for Israelis of Ethiopian descent, led by the Morris and Rosalind Goodman Family Foundation Canada, May 2025. The Jewish tradition of learning is learning. Adam chose knowledge instead of immortality. A quote from Elie Wiesel. This concludes today's ceremony. Thank you all for joining.